And we're live.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Value Tokenize with Masha and Zania. And our today's guest is Ray Verboonen, founder of Curio Invest. Hi, Ray. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Hi, Ray.
Hi, Masha. Hi, Zania. I'm very happy to stumble upon again with you guys.
Yeah, so Curio Invest allows retail investors not only to invest as little as $100 in rare collectible cars, starting with Ferrari, which recently made quite the news in Bloomberg. So can you share what is the concept, what you're working on, and why cars, supercars, collectible cars are such an attractive investment asset class?
Yeah, absolutely. So Curio Invest is a project that was launched about 18 months ago. And the underlying idea was to open, those asset classes that were previously reserved to the very few, to the very wealthy, and enable a whole new, group of investors to join this asset class. And we're looking at collectibles as an alternative investment. These are rare objects, rare cars that over time, thanks to provenance and historic reasons, the value of these assets have increasing in price. You're looking at some of these cars that are range up to several $1 million for a single car. Mm-hmm. So these are not just the normal car that you would drive from day to day, but it's actually a collectible, a car that was driven by a rare by a prominent person that had some history, that was limited edition by the manufacturers, and so on. The story goes on. So when you look at the development of this asset class over the last years, you see that from 1980, from the 80s to the year 2017, classic cars were by far the best performing collectible asset class.
Wow.
And the value of the classic car market, essentially, as measured by Hagi, which is one of the top insurances out there, it showed that it grew by 242 times. And this is what makes collectibles or rare cars very attractive as a use case. Now, we're using here asset tokenization, which is a very innovative way to essentially split an asset and enable new investors to, from very little, join this asset class. And we're dealing here with, let's say, with state-of-the-art technology, where the DLT, it's, let's say, a technology that is not much older than 10 years, but also with the regulatory changes that are taking place here in the central part of Europe. You're looking at Liechtenstein and Switzerland as one of the leading jurisdictions out there that are protecting investors with a framework to essentially structure such projects. And Curio Invest is among the very first to achieve that path. We started working on that project, and we were approved a prospectus that essentially enable us to sell across all Europe such tokens. And this is what brings the attention of the media and of the audience out there. We recently featured across very respectful media houses in a rather organic way, and where they highlighting now you can buy you will soon be able to buy a Ferrari digital token. And this is where the discussion gets very excited. You see lots of enthusiasts out there, people taking pictures of collectible cars, sometimes on the streets and so on. And this is really that kind of market that was perhaps underserved, but thanks to this technology would hopefully, become very excited.
Right. And you also announced that you plan to tokenize another 500 cars. That is a lot of vehicles. And how do you evaluate the assets? So how does this process of choosing these supercars go?
Yeah, so over the last months, we've been, contacting several collectors and essentially spreading the idea, to democratize this asset class and sharing or expressing our interest to acquire some of these assets. And of course, we have stumbled upon collectors who certainly don't want to sell their car. They want to keep it. But we also got very positive feedback from some other collectors who were keen to try the new concept and, to open it for more people to follow that passion, collecting and learn more about the asset, the history. And they offer several assets within their collection. So across this journey, we put together those interests, and we were very fortunate to have access to several hundred cars as of today. Now, this doesn't mean they will all be essentially, acquired by investors. Some of them might be simply not of interest or Curio community. But ultimately, we intend to grow this pipeline to bring the most attractive access to those assets. And this is where it gets interested. We have two approaches. The one is, let's say, internal, and the other one is external. So in the internal part, we develop a sort of proprietary algorithm in order to look at the cars that are in the pipeline, to assess the investment, in this case, whether the price of the car has a right price, to double check the price across different sources online, also check what kind of sentiment there is of the asset in the social media space, whether people are actually talking about this particular car. Maybe the car was at a particular movie, and therefore everyone went crazy for this particular car, and so on. So there is some sort of logic that we're developing there that hopefully signals whether an asset a car or a collectible makes sense. And afterwards, it goes, through the traditional checkup, meaning, mechanics, make sure that the asset is in good state. And of course, we negotiate the price. We make sure that, the price is typically or hopefully below 10% of the market price. So this also means we do not buy the car from an auction that is, kind of the last destination of this asset class, of this collectible, but we'll buy it before it gets to the auction. So that is on the internal part. And this is where it gets very interesting. On the external part, we ask our community for their opinion. We ask, hey, do you feel this car has some potential, and so on? Would you vote for this car to be next in our platform, and so on? And by bringing some token economics, we make it possible for the community to kind of suggest or provide a guideline into what collectible car will come into our platform, maybe in the future provide hopefully some rewards and so on. And the idea ultimately would be, that this algorithm will be essentially steered or complemented by, the community itself as well. Yeah.
And Ray, what about the current market situation? So we can see that some of the traditional assets and like stocks, bonds, and like real estate will most likely or it's already going down in price. So how does this entire situation in the world affect such asset class as luxury cars? Will it make it more attractive as an investment opportunity because it's less volatile, or the opposite? Can you tell us a couple of words about this?
Yeah, so there's no doubt that the market's got relatively very volatile compared to the previously, and this of course brings some uncertainty across certain investors and so on. But what you see is certainly a shift towards real assets. And a prioritization of whether it's hard cash in your pocket or whether it's, a real estate, whether there is a real, gold. And this is where it gets very interesting. I mean, collectibles provides some of these properties, real assets that, maybe securities or so that are out there that represent maybe equities and so on do not. So in a way, it kind of satisfied that demand for or search for real objects. So what we see so far, I mean, interestingly, is that as long as as far as our community concerned, an increase in metrics. I mean, the discussion in our communities has increased positively. The recent launch of some of our projects have been also positively accepted, and overall we see an organic development. I would dare to say that we're that small and young that we're really not that influenced as those folks as in the market already, and having maybe established revenue and now certainly a chunk. So it really takes a couple of a few folks for us to make a big difference, have a big difference. So we have a very motivated team here who is consistently, developing leads and scheduling calls and so on. And so far, I mean, the idea has been, focus on developing and delivering updates, right? Building infrastructure, developing, releases, creating partnerships that brought us to these media houses and so on, and so on. But of course, as the project reaches the market and and strives towards growing that, then we would see hopefully hopefully some traction, but also we would deal with the reality, which is uncertainty in the market. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if we have time for the last question.
Yeah, we do, certainly.
So my question is regarding, the emotional side of investment in a collectible asset, or actually car, because usually there is a lot of emotions, attached to, the fact of investing and owning a supercar. So how do you provide this, feeling or experience in a digital world, if you do? Because, well, obviously, there is no car in an investor's garage, but
yeah, so
the fraction.
Yeah, I mean, Curio, begins with a very nimble product, which is an asset tokenization of a single car, but also introduces this roadmap or notion of adding that passion component. And there are several milestones that we are working towards achieving that goal. Beginning with describing the beautiful story about the asset, the beautiful content, pictures, really describing why this asset is called TDF, for instance. Where does that come from? And maybe including some videos, some content, and taking the concept later, maybe developing an app where you get to see, everything curated, updates about this particular car in, the latest video, the latest blog, tweet about this particular asset. And then taking it even further towards maybe developing an AR capability so that you get to see the car parked at your house and maybe walk around and see it. I mean, this all might sound a bit futuristic today, but interestingly, the fact that we're all at home, that we cannot go to the museum, comes at a very interesting time because, people start thinking, hey, what about, looking at the virtual reality museum? So things like that, having a virtual reality of, where the car garage, where the garage is, and having content about when the mechanics are actually, taking care of the car, maybe a Q&A session with them. We hope this would complement that passion aspect. And of course, we intend to run some sort of events on a yearly basis and so on to bring the community and so on. And actually get to see the freaking car, right? And also get to, maybe do a test drive with other assets available for them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Awesome. I think that was our last question. Thank you, Ray, very much for joining us here today. It's a pleasure to see you, well, this time online. But thank you for sharing and best of luck.
Thank you, Masha, and thank you, Tanya. It was a pleasure catching up. I hope to get to see you anytime soon, whether it's in the mountains or here at the city. And stay safe, stay at home, and keep on working, doing this video. It's really great.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.